What's up, guys? We're back. We are currently on a Civ Div marathon. This is our second video in a row that we are posting, reacting and breaking down some of Civ Div's awesome footage and his commentary because he is very experienced. So, real quick, we've got a Discord channel that is just jumping, man. We started it like a week ago. We've got like 1,200 people in it or something. Yesterday, I went into the Discord and I saw like 20-something people in a voice chat all watching a video together. And they're all talking and, sharing ideas. And I'm like, this is what it's all about, bro. Bringing like-minded people who want to help, whether it's pulling a trigger or sending a donation or sending a tourniquet from Tennessee, right? Bringing these people together in one place where they can talk, share information, bounce ideas off each other, network. Such a cool thing. I know zero about Discord. This was all Knight. Knight is one of the other Azov soldiers that works very closely with me, and he is much more technologically inclined and better with this shit, and he helped set this up. And we got some phenomenal mods. Like, we just won the lottery of like some mods in this Discord that just are so good at what they do. Like, I'm still boggled by what they do. I have no idea. They set this shit up, and it's amazing. So anyways, Discord link, description below. Also, Azov's International Battalion, the battalion that I'm in, Battalion Knight's in. We got soldiers in this Discord that are in the International Battalion. We also have recruiters in the Discord that you can ask questions to. If you're interested in coming to Azov, you are in Ukraine, you're on your way to Ukraine, you've got a friend or family member in Ukraine, tell them to at least apply with us. This is going to be one of the most, if not the most, professional unit for foreigner soldiers to join. Okay, I could break down the metrics and tell you exactly why, but I need to get that cleared because I don't know if I can actually share that information yet. But trust me, okay, if you've made it this far in my channel, you know I was in the Legion. I started this channel before I joined Azov. There's a reason I joined Azov, and there's a reason I fought with these guys. There's a reason I recommend them, okay? This video, could a civilian survive Ukraine's front line? This is a big deal, man, because we have a lot of civilians who come to Ukraine to fight. And we have them in Azov, they were in the Legion, they're in any foreigner unit. You get civilians here. And oftentimes, these guys are shining stars when it comes to combat and staying in Ukraine for the long haul, the long fight. Let's watch.
What would happen to a civilian if he magically transported to the Ukrainian front line right now? And let me tell you, I've played these games before. I have seen plenty of civilians come and go from my unit, and a lot of them performed extremely well. But I'm not talking about them. I'm not talking about you guys who are interested in the military and already have a basic understanding of what war might look like and how you might act. But instead, I'm talking about my sister. I'm talking about my mom.
Okay.
Just random people that don't know anything about war. What would happen if they were popped into the front line, given a rifle, given some body armor, and they have to work as a team? Well, the first thing that they're going to experience is the environment. Everybody, no matter who you are, veteran or not, when you first go to combat, you are in for a shock. There are plenty of new sights, there's new smells, sounds. There's artillery in the distance, there's artillery that's close, there's black dots in the sky that you don't know if they're Lancets or friendly drones. There's radio calls in a different language. You're gonna see guys 300 meters away darting for cover as they're dodging mortars, whereas you in your position right now are looking at them smoking cigarettes.
Captain Price going dark. Bravo 6 going dark. Bravo 6. You got artillery. They're coming. They're coming.
Everybody's perspective on war depends on how close they are to the action. And the action can change like that, depending on if the drone decides to target you next. And again, it doesn't matter if you're a civilian or if you're a trained soldier. You all react to this differently. With that being said, that random civilian who doesn't know anything about war is most likely going to be on the front line with a lot of experienced soldiers. Every soldier in Ukraine has been there for quite a bit, all right? They've survived a lot. And they know their team very well as well. They know how they act. They've been to their weddings. They've hung out on the weekends with them. They've trained with them. They know their call signs, whereas the civilian isn't going to know that. And of course, going on with that is the job. What job are you? Are you a Mavic pilot? I would imagine that those soldiers might give that civilian a couple of easy jobs, like putting the bomb on the drone or maybe putting in a battery, but even those things have preparation beforehand. There's even a protocol for putting in the battery. You don't do it outside, because if you do it outside, that means more time that a drone can find you, a Mavic, and then you can bombard it. And if it's a nighttime rotation, would that civilian know that you aren't supposed to put on your light? If you put on the light, we're all gonna die.
Oh, the light. Oh, it's the light.
There's a lot of things that civilians just might not understand about the battlefield. What kind of sensors are watching you? Even if you can't hear it, they're watching you. It's a very strange thing. So I'd be lying if I said that I didn't think about this when I was on the front line, and even afterwards, even today, which is, what if my family came to the front line in the middle of the bombardment that I was in? What if they were just there? Well, the first thing I would say is that as a trained soldier, as somebody there, I would feel kind of responsible for them. I felt this as a team leader and a squad leader in Iraq, where I almost feel like I'm babysitting them, where I want to make sure that they're taken care of. And I guess the trained soldiers probably feel that way with a civilian. They don't want him to get hurt. They see how scared he is, of the newness of war and the reality of it. And the next thing the soldiers might feel is they feel like they have somebody important watching them. Maybe not, it's not important, but they definitely want to perform their best. Somebody's watching. You can think of the same thing. If you go to the gym and, you like a girl, you want to make sure to look good in front of her, and you want to make sure to put on the heaviest weights. That might be the same thing for the soldiers. If you have somebody you care about there, you're probably going to react better. And I've seen that for myself. When I wear a GoPro, my team doesn't change who they are. They don't, they're the same person, but they definitely feel like they have a watching eye over them. And I feel the same thing when I have a GoPro on. I want to make sure I look, good, right? I want to make sure I look professional. Whereas without a GoPro, without somebody watching you, like a spectator, like that civilian might be, in the back of the corner of the blindage, just kind of watching everything going on, you might feel like performing a little bit better. Now again, of course, there's times where you have to go outside. You'd have to bring the civilian outside, either to grab supplies from the car that was that just arrived, and it's really dangerous outside. So if he does run out there, I would imagine he would follow the instincts of everybody else around him. If they're diving for cover, they would dive for cover. But when I've imagined this scenario for myself, I imagine their wide eyes. I can almost see their wide eyes as they're looking around and seeing the person that they trust most, and just copying them. They know how dangerous it is, and it's not just know, but you can feel it and hear it. You know how dangerous it is based on your eardrums ringing from the blasts that are happening around you. So the civilian is going to have a hard time knowing the reality of it. I definitely agree with that. But one thing they won't understand is the protocol for it. Now, we're talking about drone operations, but if it's a different thing, like infantry or maybe a 60mm mortar, in the forward positions, that civilian's going to have a lot harder time. And that team is not going to be able to utilize them more than maybe reloading magazines. Why? Well, there's communication. There's knowing your team. Who can you trust? And when this random person pops in, this random civilian, you can't trust him more than to load, some magazines or whatever. Because does he know the TRPs? Does he know what friendly positions are around him? Does he know the language? Does he know what bounding left means, or an ADRAC, triple D? Does he know all these terms? If he doesn't, he's likely to get people killed around him. So he's not going to be utilized in that regard. The next thing that civilian is going to have to deal with is the gear and the loadout. He's not going to understand where the IFAKs are on his team. He's not going to know where the tourniquets are on his body. He might not even know how to use a tourniquet, which is really important. And of course, the body armor, it's heavy. It's very, very heavy. And if you don't train with it, your body just isn't accustomed to it. He's going to be very uncomfortable. He's going to look a little like an airsofter. Just a little airsofter. He doesn't, quite have everything fitted out correctly. He doesn't train it too much. And even if he shoots back home, he shoots in his backyard, does he know this specific weapon system, this AK? And even if he does he know if the sight is zeroed? For those reasons, again, he is not going to be used in the team. The team is not going to put him out there to go and do a task beyond sitting in the blindage and readying up food and coffee. And I definitely know that the civilian, based on what I know from my channel and from what I know from getting questions from my friends and family back home, is they're gonna have a misrepresentation of what war is. They think it's gonna be more fighting, but in reality it's more coordination and preparation. Preparation beforehand with readying your gear, making sure you're trained, making sure that you're fit enough. There's a lot of preparation beforehand, and then even when you get to the front line, 1% of it is fighting, the rest of it is patrolling. Does he know how to patrol? Does he know the different patrolling techniques? Does he know the threats around him, the mines, what they look like, the little leaflet mines? Does he know the paths that he has to follow? Does he know the friendly positions? he's not going to be used in any capacity. So I think you can get from what I'm saying here, he's going to be a burden. Look, we've had civilians join us in operations, but one that I want to point out, when I was in the SSO partisan group, we were tasked to be QRF against a tank assault that was probably going to happen. But before we went out, we heard our housekeeper, who let us stay at his house as his base, he wanted to join because it's his country. He had the conviction inside him, and he's an avid hunter. He would hunt boar at nighttime, and he'd feed us. It was great. But hey, yeah, why not? You can come join us, come, get your toes wet. We don't know how long this war is going to last. This is just a couple months into the war. And he joined us. Here he is, running with us to the front line right now. What we did is we just kind of put him in the back bill notch. We put him in the back bunker, and then we were the most forward positions. We had PKM set.
I remember watching that specific episode or video that CivDiv put out, and I thought that was so cool, man. This civilian was like, I want to go with you. Can I go with you?
The MLaw, we had different people ready to go and do different taskings, but for him, he's just there. He's there to go and maybe help in some way because he wanted to, but we did not utilize him in the way that maybe he expected. And that's fine. Like, he's not part of the military. He didn't have to do this. Now, other occasions, I mean, I've seen it in Syria and Iraq especially, where there's civilians with no training at all, and they come and join the unit, and we have to work with them. We're guerrilla fighters. We have to utilize them in the best capacity that we can. But I'll tell you what, we probably had about a 50% attrition rate overall, especially in YBS, living in the tunnels, of course. Stark conditions. But we had about 50% attrition rate of people who just want to leave. They're like, I am not cut out for this. And they had that realization there. Same thing's going on in Ukraine. Luckily, I've been in a lot of really good units in Ukraine and with people that I trust and I know. But I've heard there's similar stories, especially at the start of the war in the Foreign Legion and such. So would that civilian survive? Yeah, but is survival the same as contributing? Not so much. He would absolutely be a burden, and had he been through a month of training with them, he'd probably be better prepared. It depends on his conviction. That's the big thing. Does he actually care about this, or is he just popped into existence? But, I've seen plenty of civilians, both in Iraq and Syria, as well as Ukraine, that perform amazingly. They have that conviction, and they step up when it's time to, especially in Ukraine. You can see it all over the place. All over the place. I met them. Yeah, plenty of cases of this. I could go much more in depth, but that's all you got to know. And, if they're willing to be trained, they're going to be trained, they're going to perform well, depending on their conviction. But a random civilian from the U.S., whoever it is, no, they're not going to perform well. And that goes for anybody that is jumping into war for the first time, trained or not. So hopefully you guys learned something. I just want to go through this thought experiment. I thought it'd be interesting. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.
Yeah, this is cool, man. It's hold on, this says, huge thanks to the members of the channel. If any of you would like to help Skippy during a difficult time, his Buy Me a Coffee will be linked below. Thanks, cool. So help Skippy out if you want. You guys, I'll link CivDiv's video in the description. So I kind of let that one just play without interrupting it a bit because he was bringing up just some solid points. And there's a couple things I wanted to mention now. So something I've noticed, and this is different than what he's talking about here, but something I've noticed here in Ukraine is sometimes your civilians, people who were not in a military role prior to coming to Ukraine, maybe they were first responders like I was, or construction worker, or a nurse, or a doctor, whatever. They come here, but they have a kind of a baseline knowledge of combat warfare, what's happening in Ukraine. Maybe they watch CivDiv's videos, or they stay up to date on the news, or whatever. These guys, if they're given enough training, these guys perform very well in Ukraine. One of the reasons, and this is my opinion, of course, right? One of the reasons they do so well is because they have no bad habits, for one, and for two, they have no expectations when it comes to fire support. When and how quickly you should get a CASEVAC, where your air support is, friendly reinforcements and how that works. They have no perception of these things yet because they didn't receive that as a former Marine or Army infantryman did in the US or the UK, or and for that reason you see civilians stay longer. I've seen a lot of American veterans come here, all meaning well and doing well, but after their first couple of missions, they realize no thank you, because they're not getting CASEVAC in a Black Hawk helicopter if they get wounded. 10, 15 minutes after they get hit. No, they might have to sit in that position for days before somebody can reach them. And then they're dragging his ass on a fucking, on a stretcher or his sleeping bag 3, 4, 10 kilometers to the nearest stab point, stabilization point, right? These guys, they're not, if they make a call and they say, hey, I need fire on this position, this grid point, they're not going to get artillery or mortar fire to suppress that grid coordinate immediately like they would in the U.S., right? They don't have surveillance from an AC-130 where they can call down fire support and fire missions. Because of this is how they were trained. This is what they're used to. Because they don't have this stuff, they're like, no, this isn't what I know. This isn't right, basically. And they're right to an extent. It's not right, but this is the way this war has to be fought currently. So now switching gears to what he said is a completely green civilian, like taking your uncle or your brother who has never been interested in the military, never liked it, never given a shit, and putting him on a mission with you. Oh, that stresses me out even thinking about it, right? Because Sibdiv's absolutely right. I would feel so responsible for this person. I'd want to protect them every step of the way. There are, one of the reasons being, is there's so many nuances to not only combat, but just being in the military in general. Understanding things like hard cover, soft cover, concealment. There's so many things, right? That, like he said, understanding if your rifle is zeroed, understanding safety and fire select modes. And there's so many little things that as a soldier you don't think about because it's second nature to you. But as somebody who's never had any soldiering experience or educated themselves on their own about it, this is all brand new. So like he said, I would just tell this person, hey, sit in this corner. We got 3 days, 4 days on this position. Stay there. We'll feed you. We'll give you cigarettes, whatever. We'll give you water. Don't move. We'll do our shit, and we'll get you out of here, hopefully safely. That would be stressful for sure. This, like he said, this guy that asked to go with him on that to their positions, that Ukrainian guy who was a hunter and he hunted boar. This guy has at least a sub baseline knowledge of violence and aggression. And even if it's just from hunting, he knows the sound of a gun or a rifle, very loud, no ear protection. He knows what it's like to gut and open up an animal. These things at least will prepare you a little bit more than somebody who has worked an office job their whole life, never seen a video about military, has never given a shit about it, and then they get dropped in this. Oh my God, I would imagine they would be terrified. Soldiers who are prepared for this shit are terrified. I've been terrified. I'm sure Sibdiv's been terrified. So that's a very interesting concept, very cool thing to hear him talk about. Check Sibdiv out. He is basically the godfather of conflict content, if you will. But what's cool about him is he's been in these conflicts. He was a U.S. Marine, then he joined the YPG in Iraq, and then he came to Ukraine, and then he was in Syria. I mean, this guy has fought everywhere. Anywhere where there's been a substantial conflict, really. And there's probably shit that he doesn't even share that he's been in. Maybe different contract work and stuff. So he's extremely experienced. I always like watching his videos because he knows what's up. Not only did he have the Western military from one of the best branches of the military in the entire world, the United States Marine Corps, but he's also adapted these things and improvised his skill sets to these different regional conflicts that he's participated in. So in my eyes, his advice is invaluable. You can't put a price on it. It's just extremely, extremely valuable. All right, I'll shut up. I love you guys. Hey, the link to the Discord is in the description below. Link to Azov's International Battalion that I'm in is in the description below. And Sibdiv's link is in the description below. I love you guys. See you in the next video.